Demo gods, Emiliano is back.
Okay.
It's all yours. Thank you for playing with us.
Yeah, thank you. So let me present this project, which is started when, let's say, I started being thinking to accessibility as something which is important to include every person. And it's not about disability. It's about making interfaces usable for anyone in any condition. So starting from the first time I followed the Accessibility Days conference, I started worrying about this topic, and I started studying this topic and the laws which are involved. So it happened at some point that I decided to make the accessibility accessible for developers. That's why wcagUI started. So let me present. I'm a mentor, but considering that our group is called Dev Dojo, so we call mentors as senseis, you know, even if I don't get the shape of a sensei. And I'm a co-host of our YouTube channel. So what is wcagUI? It's something which is born about making to the developers easy to craft UIs without worrying too much about accessibility, because the UI kit takes care of it for you. So what is wcagUI? It's a design system, thanks to the Exin team, which designed of course, the design system about this project. It's a UI kit based on the authority practice guidelines patterns, and it's made with developers in mind. It's with the purpose of make easy the implementation of UIs without taking care about all these, you know, WAI-ARIA attributes and all this stuff that the people doesn't want to get documented about. So the accessibility, it's a declaration of intents. When a company or an individual contributor starts worrying about this topic, it's something which makes that person different, let's say, in some way than the others, because it's sensitive to the other people's needs. And it's an important thing, even considering the laws which are coming in June here in Europe. But let's talk about what is the topic. We are talking about 1.3 billion people in the planet which has some sort of disability or which are facing digital barriers every day. It's 20% of people, which means it's 1 person on 5. It's something which should start take care of. Too many companies consider accessibility as an additional service, as something which can be fixed with an overlay. But the best practice is to start from the design, taking care about contrast, color, and typography and all the other components and foundations which are part of a design system. The European Accessibility Act is outside of the gate, it's there. And so we as individual contributors and as companies should start thinking about this stuff really, really carefully. Sorry for my bad English again. So what are the key features of this project? We implemented it with a zero dependencies approach. So it's entirely crafted in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript. And it's entirely self-contained, so you don't need to install any other external libraries to make it work. It's semantic at its core, and basically, the concept was to extend native elements. So if you have a button, you will have to extend it from HTML button element and all the other semantic elements as well. And inside the component, you will get some code which will handle the WAI-ARIA attributes as needed in the specific use case. So it's based about where the component is running in that specific moment. And, and this, of course, helps even accessibility, but also even search engine optimization. It's accessible by design. Thanks, Salvo. Thanks, Georgia, for the design system. And it's based on the WCAG patterns. So its purpose is to make effortless taking care about these topics just by using normal HTML elements. And it's built on the latest APIs available in the core web technologies. So we just started and we just decided to implement it, just supporting the last two measures of any browser and any viewport engine. How does it work? It's based on customElements spec v1, so we needed a polyfill for this, and we're taking the polyfill from the Andrea Giamarchi's one, and we rewrote it as for what we needed. And it's not using the shadow DOM at all, because we decided to not encapsulate the components specifically to make them customizable from outside with no effort, just by using CSS. The other thing is that it's modular, because it's the entire CSS code base is independent than the JS code base. So you have separated libraries for this, for the typography, for the grid system, and for the other, and you can import them singularly. And the whole thing is made upon CSS layers and combined with CSS custom properties. It's a monorepo, so it's modular. You can just import the button or the date picker or whatever you need, and it's of course compatible with all the tree shaking systems and deduplication systems, which allow you to import, you know, the component more than once and just load it once in the final build. So let's do a recap about what we did in the components. We extended semantic elements. We used metaprogramming. We used the static initialization blocks of JavaScript. We will see it after. We used mixins, decorators, lifecycle methods, CSS layers, custom properties, and exposing CSS APIs. Sounds like a huge vanilla ice cream, right? But talk is not enough, so show me the code. This will be my next tattoo on my left arm. Yeah. So extending semantic elements. We started extending buttons from the HTML button element and inputs from the input one, dialogues, details, and so on. This means no base classes. We can't centralize things, it looks like, right? But with metaprogramming, we documented every component with JSDoc in order to make it, to use it for building the type definitions for TypeScript. Extending the element, we added some static code that we use for to do the metaprogramming, and specifying a map of attributes and a map of events that we want to handle inside the specific component. Those are just examples. Yeah, metaprogramming, yeah. So what are static initialization blocks? Following the code of the button component, you can see that there is an incomprehensible static something anonymous method. How it works? This is native vanilla JavaScript, and it's something which allows us to initialize a class, an identifier of a class, without just by importing the library. That's it. So what happens, no code is required to make it run. And what happens is that when we import the library, we will get this line executed automatically. So, yeah, static initialization blocks. Decorators in native JavaScript. So what happened is that this component decorator, it's something which is just make some assertions, you know, and defines the custom element and apply mixins. So some central methods and shared methods between all the components are inside the mixins and are centralized in one point only. So this is just a safe define of custom elements. It's all native vanilla JavaScript, as you can see. When we build these extend options, it's just for make it work without having a custom component name. So we send the extends, and this allows us to use the button, as you can see here, instead of this. What this means is that when you go to the website where you have the documentation, you can copy the snippet of components and just import the CSS part of the library, and you will get semantic elements even with JavaScript disabled. That's why we decided to implement it like this. Then we can apply to the prototype of the component some mixins and remap the attributes and events and build these lifecycle methods. This is one native lifecycle method, which is static. It's just the getter for the observed attributes, which is taking the list from the map we specified in the metaprogramming. Yeah, mixins. Yeah, decorators. So what about lifecycle methods? Everything you can see here is vanilla JavaScript. So we have this attribute changed callback, which is remapped with these methods like handle, attribute name, Pascalized, and change. And there's also an API that you can implement from outside to get some callbacks automatically. And the same goes for the connected callback, which is just attaching listeners from the events map. And the same goes for the disconnected. As you can see, when we add or remove listeners, we just specify this. Why? We are using the handle event method, which is just calling the handle event name capitalized handler with optional chaining. So this allows us to avoid a lot of switches or ifs to identify the different events and just call the event handler, the user, and the developer specified in the event map. Yeah, lifecycle in vanilla JavaScript. So exposing CSS APIs. We combined layers and CSS custom properties. So as you can see, we have a layer for the foundations. We have a layer for the typography, specifying variables in the root element inside the layer. And after, you got a layer for the components and for the button, for instance. And we can specify variables even here and use them inside the component. So considering that the variables, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, are designed to be faster in parsing than rewriting a specific property. Just by changing the variable, we will get the UI updated. So the rules and the properties are just in the selector, and everything else is just changing variables for the hovers, for the primary, secondary buttons, and everything else. And the good thing about layers is just that the unlayered styles will always override what's written in the layers. So just by changing the variables, we can customize every aspect of the component which is exposed with this CSS API. It looks like an API, right? Yeah, CSS APIs. So what are the foundations? The colors are full LI compliant. This is just an old image of the experiments the guys did while testing the colors and finding the proper contrasts between them in order to use them in all the rest of the design system, right? And of course, the same work was did for elevations, so establishing how is the depth of the different components, and I don't know, the popover will behave with a different shadow than the dialogue, just to give the proper depth on every aspect of the user interface. The spacing is just spacing scale based on 4 pixels, right? And yeah. And this is the topography. So every different aspect of headings, body, content, labels, and everything else was designed to adapt easily in automatic way to all the different viewports. Components. So for instance, the button, and sorry for this unuseful thing, which is made by Highlight.js, but for the button you will have just this selector and a lot of attributes to make it behave with the different variants or the different sizes or the different states which are in the design, and everything is fully customizable in CSS. This is an example for the input. When we create an input field, we will need for sure an area label to describe it for the assistive technologies. So considering this, we just used this area label value to make it work and change it into this at runtime. So what happens is that if you can use JavaScript, and JavaScript is enabled in the viewport, you will just have to write this, and at runtime the component will auto-wrap itself in the label, taking the value from the area label item, and this also avoids to use the for and the ID with the label, because it's implicit, and the label just is wrapping an input, so it already knows that it's related to that input. So this is why we decided to use this structure. And the same goes for selects and checkboxes and everything else. I have 7 minutes. All this stuff is what we already implemented in the UI kit. And this is the roadmap we're working on for the future. So our idea is to provide to every developer a semantic UI kit which can be easily integrated in every front-end framework like Angular or React or Vue, because they are just custom elements. They just work, even with React since the 19th version, but even since the 16th with some quirks, let's say. So what we are planning is to provide an entire UI kit and a design system for the community to, let's say, ease their developer experience in terms of accessibility implementations. Yeah, so that's the basic idea around this. And that's why we decided to use vanilla technologies to make it easily integrable in all the platforms and frameworks we are used to use. So save the date. The release candidate 1 will be released in 15 April of this year. I do have 5 minutes. So those are the links of the website. You can grab it with your camera if you want. And here you got the websites of DevDojo and Exene, which are the two, let's say, realities and companies that it's working on this thing. And that's all, folks.
Round of applause.
Thank you. I made it, man.
Yeah, you made it, totally made it.
I didn't mess it up.
No, absolutely not. And by the way, as a colorblind, I would like to thank you for the work you are doing as an accessibility bard.
Thank you, man.
So another round of applause for Emiliano.
Thanks.
Okay. I think we have some time for questions now. Thank you also for being such a good sport earlier with the internet issues. Do we have any questions for Emiliano? Yeah, over here. You want to do?
Hi, thank you. What would be the use for, so what would be the process of using those components when you want to develop something? So you would download the package, and what would be the process? So you want to build your own website?
For the integration, you mean?
Let's say you want to build your website, no frameworks, or something like HTMX or even React, let's say. What would be the process?
Yeah, you can just import the libraries from using them as dependencies, or you can even integrate them by using the, I don't know, some CDNs like Unpackage or stuff like this. So once you imported the library and the custom element registry is updated with the component you imported, they will be ready for the integration because it's just HTML. And I mean, Astro and Svelte and Vue just integrates them natively. In Angular, you just have to use the custom elements schema. And in React, you just have to import them if you use the 19th version. But if you don't, and you're using, I don't know, versions from the 16th and above, there are some guides on the internet, but even in our website to easily integrate the component even there. I hope I answered.
Yeah, so the result will be that you have your component with CSS, everything embedded, or...
Once
It's
you import the JavaScript part, you will get the CSS too. But if you are implementing interfaces in a no JavaScript environment, you can import just the CSS part of the libraries or of the components.
Thank you.
So, and then you have, just to replicate the thing you see before about the input field with the label, as many people already does with Bootstrap, I don't know, just grab the snippet of the already made HTML for the Node.js environments.
Thank you. Any other questions? Everyone's feeling a bit shy.
Don't be shy, you're gonna earn some points. Everybody
Can't
wants
win.
points.
No?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Well, we also have your Shruti Award. I'll grab that. Okay. Come here. Amazing. So thank you also for being such an amazing champion for open source and for coming here today and for dealing with the impromptu interview that you had. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Look at me, Ma. I won a prize.
Woo!